Hey, Striker Metals here. Today I will be tearing apart this Tesco Boombox to see what goodies are inside. So that thing actually has some history. That melting there, all that heat damage. Warping is actually from camping trips, as this was once my camping radio. There's a fuse in there. It's a 5 amp fuse. Cool, there's a little bit of silver in there, assume that's out of the mains. Got a laser there from the CD drive, some goodies inside there, see capacitors and stuff through that tiny gap. Anything else in there? Yes, we have a tape and dust. This thing's old, forever, an Echo and the Bunnymen, and some sort of mixtape hits. That thing's ancient. Old tape. Should be some motors in there. I can see more screws. Do my best to identify where all the goodies are inside of these generic Tesco Boombox. Already taken out some screws. Close that. Whoa, just popped. Oh, there we go. Wow. That opened remarkably easily, didn't it? So, there's the circuit board. Oh, that's incredibly dusty in there. Looks like I may require some scissors. I think I have some around. Indeed. Close by, tools. There are zip ties. They do work, zip ties. Lots of hot glue also. Looks like an end stop switch. Could be quite tricky to take apart this thing, by the looks of it. Remove these zip ties. Carefully, stabbing myself. Oh, it's incredibly dusty in there. This thing has never been opened. Ooh. This is coming apart into more and more sections. Okay. Lots of plugs here, if I can release some of them. Do look like they disconnect. No, that's not one of them disconnectors. Lots of dried ancient hot glue there. Get rid of that. Quite sharp, that solder. Scrape myself. Nice circuit board on that. Lots of solder, a few microchips. What do we have here? Chunky transformer. Copper inside of here, as well as steel. Copper is obviously quite valuable. A toroidal bead by there, reduces interference coming in through the main socket. There's a main socket there. Probably plated with something like either zinc or silver. We can test to see which one. Aluminium heatsink. Made lots of ingots out of that. That's good stuff. And we have a fast blow fuse there. 250 volt, obviously. Can't see what rating it says on it. Take that out. Also got a few capacitors. These are the electrolytic type, just filled with a sort of nasty goo, which you see foam out of them when they blow up. Right, some scissors here for the battery power section. Ow! Got blocking diodes here, 4 of them. A couple of capacitors and a transistor connected to a heatsink. Assume that's for the battery interface for this thing, as it works off 220 volts but also lower voltage, 12, through the big old D batteries that cost a fortune to use in these things. Get the transformer out of there first. And I see that is the most valuable thing. more screws to come. Seems to have a good screwdriver choice anyway, as I took 3 different sizes just in case, and pliers just in case I need to snap something. Which inevitably we're going to need to. There's a tear down after all. Lots and lots of screws. A giant chunk of plastic. This stuff can be recycled also. I've seen it chipped up and turned into ABS, which has been turned into filament. The type of plastic's ABS and then turns into filament for 3D printers. Don't have the equipment to do that, but other people do. So, like the government, for example, I assume recycle these things. If not, why not, I suppose. So there's the transformer connected to the mains part. Lots of solder there. Solder's got tin in it. It can also have antimony, sometimes lead, but that's only in the really old stuff. And this ghetto blaster, this boombox, isn't too old. So a little bit of silver, aluminium, tin, alloys, and a nice chunk of copper inside of there. Usually lots of copper in these things, a few good number of grams at least. I'll chop these off. Wires, as they are needed. These can be silver plated, these contacts, for the mains. In fact, they probably are for the main switch. Chop off more of these. I want to keep these solder blobs, as they can be sucked off or burned off. Heat gun, solder sucker, which is like a soldering iron but with a vacuum pump attached to it. Nice circuit board, that one. Nice chunky transformer also. So big circuit board next. Lots of screws in this one. Might take a few minutes. Not as many screws as I expected, at least. That's why I took the ones off on the outside, as I knew there would be a few on the inside. Usually about double the amount on the inside than there are outside. Electrical audio devices like this. I have another couple of audio things I'll be tearing apart, an old amplifier, an old tape deck. They're too old to serve any use, because they both only support one single speaker, which is crappy. My system supports 12. Totally unneeded. It was far too loud when you've attached that many speakers to one of them crazy amplifiers, which I can never use on full power, because it hurts your brain and your lungs. Like when you're in the back of one of them cars with them horrible strong speakers, make your lungs hurt, collapse. This thing was incredibly loud, used to give you an headache at one point. The damage looks water damaged also. Now that I look at it, probably is, been in rain several dozen times. It's practically been in a fire. Or close enough to be considered in a fire. It gets very cold camping out in Wales in winter. Which means you have to be close to a fire with your boombox. It was a good boombox this at one point. All them screws off, they look to be. Got some things attaching there. Toroidal bead. I'll have to try and untangle that. There we go. Inconvenient. There we go. Oh, nice connector there, 4-pin connector. They're always quite useful. Big pile of screws. Useful if you have something that's missing that one vital screw that holds it together. What's this trash on? Couple of connectors there. Remove that bit, put that aside. So we'll continue doing this, which is connected via some plastic. Something to get off. Screws, other side, more plastic. Which is actually recyclable. If you've got a 3D printer. Which I may or may not get at some point. Depends if I find a use for it. There's a laser inside of here also, I remind you. In the top section. That one's actually glued on it. Rip that off. Laser CD access. These things can actually be used to make ghetto 3D printers. I've seen it done on Instructables. That site where you learn to make stuff. I actually have an account on there. It's ancient. There's a stupid amount of views for some reason. Old stuff I did when I was a kid. Spring stuck. That's definitely not going anywhere. Let's get this axis out of place. Squishy grommet. A nice couple of chunky motors on this axis. Old styly. CD drive axis. That's one that goes left and right. Obviously if you have another one and you just position it vertically, then you have up and down. And all you need is a bed that goes left and right. You can alter all three in order to have a 3D axis for a printer. Still got to buy a load of circuitry and Arduinos and stuff. So there's the CD drive. Big chunk of plastic there, that can come off. There's the laser inside of there. It should be a bit gold plated on the diode, the laser itself. I'm sure I've got a video in which I show that. These cogs are actually quite useful. I've actually sold quite a lot of them before. For hobbies, remote control stuff. Suspension and whatnot, remote control cars. Break that off, so that's stuck on there. More cogs and wheels. Good for hobby stuff, as mentioned. Got that axis there as well. Except the cog mechanism has been taken off. Need to take that out in order to get to the laser diode. But as I said, I've got another video on that, dismantling them. I have to find that. I have a lot of videos. Have fun looking. Got a contact relay here, contact switch, nice and clicky. These are silver plated. Should be a tiny dot of silver on top of the contacts themselves. Increase lifespan. Small circuit board here with a potentiometer on it. That's one of those rotating knobs. That's what they're called, potentiometers. Allows you to change the voltage and therefore the volume. Lots of them screws. I was just talking about. This is all plastic junk. This thing has screws also. That one is right stuck in there. I seem to be chewing it up. May just snap the plastic off, probably will. This screw is undoing, however. A lot of these circuit boards will be broken down anyway. Just snap that off. Still got the components with the solder on there, the nice shiny metal, low melting point. You connect a big enough blob of solder, it can be worth quite a bit. So, worth noting. Gathering up lots of big chunks of solder, if possible. If you're in a workshop or whatever. So I've got a big circuit board here, with a few microchips. These ones probably contain very small amounts of gold and silver, along with these. Lots of solder, and therefore lots of tin, big blobs. That's good for weight. More tin you get, better. As for about an ounce of tin, you can get about £6–7, depending how if it's stamped and weighted and graded and such. That is, if it's pure tin. Although alloys can be worth a bit too. Depends if it has antimony within it. Most do. Massive amount of capacitors, which are probably silver plated aluminium, electroplated. What's this thing? There's some sort of strange switch. Not sure that's a strange switching mechanism, that one. That's a nice normal classic sort of multiple pole switch. Got another potentiometer there. That's one of those things that go left and right, changing settings. It's a radio tuner, that one. Good if you can remove them intact, as they're quite useful. You can use them to build other radios along with this aerial component, which is just a copper, again, very pure copper, wound around an aerial into an aerial coil. These green things are again capacitors, except they don't have poles, so no positive and negative, so they're along a single line. And these can contain small amounts of tantalum, these ones, a valuable and rare metal, very high melting point. Have these here, very tiny things. See if I can get a view of them. They look like glass, that's because they are, and inside is germanium. Germanium's a sort of a rare mineral used in things like night vision sights and thermal optics and things like attack helicopters and such. Yeah, I know a lot of strange facts about these materials. More copper here and here. These are part of the aerial components. What else do we have? More capacitors. These small ones, they can probably contain very small monofilaments of silver inside, conductivity. These timing crystals. These can contain, and always do contain silver, but I have seen them contain tiny little filaments of gold also, out of things like expensive watches or expensive timepieces, clocks and stuff. So collect a big pile of these and you can easily get silver in its pure form. A few hundred of them will probably get you a gram or so, maybe more, straight up. Got a little ribbon cable here, silver plated, along this rim. Of course you need a massive amount of ribbon cables in order to deplate them with electrolysis, or reverse electrolysis in order to deplate. That's a steel heatsink, not so good. So that's pretty much all the components that I can see covered on that board. Cool. Good amount of solder on that one. Still got this to go. Looks like mainly speakers, and you've got motors in the tape deck. Magnets inside of the speakers also. Move some of that aside so I've got some workspace. Oh, it's nasty and dusty. Bigger screwdriver. Ooh. Yeah, they're right stuck. Got it. Glued in place or Loctite, which is a type of screw glue. It does what it says. Do stop screws slipping out of place though. Speakers are also glued in place. Oh, damn. I hate when they do this. Yay. Speaker removed. Nice speaker too. How many ohms does it say? About 3 watt 8 ohms. So your classic sort of speaker. Nice and magnetic. Get that other speaker free. Speakers usually sell, there's always someone out there that needs some specific speakers. I've sold boxes of speakers before. They're not worth a remarkable amount, but if you sell them wholesale in big boxes with all different cool selections of speakers, it's down to make a few quid. That's only if you've got sufficient electronic waste to mine a massive amount of speakers. So loads of nafflet audio equipment. Be a good start. Damn it. Stuck in there again. Glued. Really glued. Damn it. No purchase on that. No, I end up snapping the screwdriver before I get through that. Try the scissors, not destroy the speaker. No, that's going on. Damn. It's connected to that one though, so I do need that out. Pliers. It's meant to be. Pliers did it. My speakers with the connector. They will need testing. as the speakers were the things malfunctioning, along with the radio itself. Nearly snapped that screwdriver. Not much left in here, but a nice chunky motor on the tape deck. One with a little circuit board inside there, which is for these buttons. So not got too much. See if I can get all these support screws out before I finish the video, or I run out of memory and it finishes itself. If you do, I'll see you in the next video where I'll be tearing apart a large old Tektronix amplifier. Should be a nice chunky transformer in that also. We will see. All of these components can be sold on their own if tested. Or you suspect they're in good condition. Very little wrong that can go wrong with motors, for example, these ones. That's just a spring. Almost completely torn down this. Still got that laser there, but they require a different set of tools, much smaller scale, precision stuff. And tweezers. That's a micro scrapping video, that would be. Which I'm pretty sure I have a video of. Hunt it down if you're interested. Lots of scrapping videos mixed into my nuts. So that should be that. Will that come out now? Yep. There's all the mechanical components. We got lots and lots of gears there. They're all good. Making things like custom gears for wheels from remote control cars. Oh my god, there's a bit of tape left on that. Look at that. It's actual I wonder what album that is. Oh dear. And we got the tape reader there, which is a magnetic reader. Probably worth extracting. Not that anyone repairs tape decks anymore, but you could probably make some sort of gadget with an Arduino out of that. And that large chunky motor, which actually feels quite weighty, along with this, which is, I suspect, steel. And we're finding out, yep, it's magnetic, it's steel. Not worth much. Unless you have tons of steel, in which case you still won't get much. All these do require further processing. I've shown how to do that in several other videos. Worth checking out. Trying to get this circuit board out. Got it. More plastic waste. Nothing much in there. Dented plastic and melted bits. So that's all of it. That's the last screw. Ooh, very nice circuit board from the front. Got some, these tactile switches contain silver. Quite a lot I've seen in videos covered from these. It's worth collecting a bucket of these, and they're quite easy to get because they're not nearly everything tactile switches. Nice display here as well. These can be controlled with other circuits like Arduino quite easily. Some LEDs. Not much really in them. Not unless you've got like a billion. So, big pile of circuit boards, scrap and screws. Not bad. A little closer. Possible. Yep. the motor. Nice massive fat blob of solder on that reed relay. Try not to get my phone too close to the magnet. Copper transformer, weighty. Screws, laser, good uses of that. Can make a 3D printer or a laser cutter. Nice display, lots of experiments. Good haul from that boombox actually, better than I expected. And I'll see you in the next video where I will be tearing apart these.